Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Ricky with Tech Solutions. Hope that you guys are all having an amazing Sunday, and welcome to our Sunday Stock Talk. So for those that are tuning on in for the first time, this is where we go live and break down the top 5 stocks that our viewers see value in. And if you ever want to tune on in, all you literally have to do is subscribe to the channel and turn on your post notifications so YouTube notifies you when it is that I go live. I also do want to remind you, I do trade live every morning, but this is private. It is for our LPP members. So again, if you ever want to watch me trade live every single morning, right at market open for about 30 minutes to an hour, you can tune on in, and it's the second link in the description down below. Without further ado, again, if you guys want me to break down your top stock, feel free to share it in the live chat right now. I wanted to keep today's video very short and sweet just because not much has changed based off of news, and we don't have much in the pipeline for this week. When it comes down to economic reports, there's nothing that's really standing out to me that is super urgent. And it's not like last week. We had inflation report last week. That was kind of important. The market kind of overlooked it. Markets are continuously pushing up higher. So remember, I've made it very clear. Market direction is still bullish. I believe markets are overbought and overvalued. I don't think fundamentally any or most of these companies are not performing well to be trading at these levels. But in the short term, it doesn't matter, right? When a company has a good story and good price momentum, it's incredibly bullish and you need to respect it. So does this mean you can't short the market? I would say that if you're a beginner, you should completely stay away from shorting, especially as direction is against you. With that being said, if you are someone that is a little bit more well-versed with the market, then yeah, if we do get confirmation of a reversal, that's one thing that we can take day by day. But overall, it looks like, again, the bulls still have the ground, right? They still have the floor. They're the ones that can choose to be greedy because market sentiment is in their favor. The only thing that I do want to make you guys aware is I don't think we'll make much progress this week, is that in 10 days, supposedly, or August 1st, so today is July 20th, by August 1st is the deadline, supposed official deadline that Trump has set up for all of these tariffs. I'm just here to remind you, to make you aware. We'll see what the Trump administration does. I want to remind you that just 10 days ago, it was July 8th to be exact, they extended the deadline until August 1st. So the firm deadline that was set over 90 days ago was then extended to August 1st. We'll see if Trump actually delivers with a handful of trade deals signed by different countries. But to my understanding from the articles that I'm reading, he is just slapping countries with more tariffs because the market is kind of immune to that news. We'll see once they start kicking in, if they start kicking in by August 1st, if the markets have the same reaction. But as of right now, nothing has changed, and that's still over 10 days away. So let's go ahead, and I just wanted to share that with you. Let's just jump right into it. If you have a top stock you would like me to break down, share it in the live chat, and I'd be more than happy to break it down for you and share my thoughts. I want to remind you that just because I do or don't see value in your stock doesn't mean that you should or should not invest in it. There's so many different ways on how to make money in this market. I choose to be a little bit more selective, and that's really just it, right? So let's go ahead and jump right in. So we got Oscar. Oh, there was one headline that I quickly wanted to share with you guys. There's this. I want to see your guys' reaction in the live chat. What do you think about this? If you guys did not see, Justin, total NFT market cap surpasses $6 billion. A lot of people, when it comes down to the crypto space, right? Bitcoin began doing well. It pushed to new highs, and then now they're calling it altcoin season, which tends to happen after a Bitcoin, after the Bitcoin rally. And then, in my opinion, is when all the gimmicks begin to start. If this is your first time around, you might not understand why this is kind of laughable to us. But the last time, people were paying hundreds of thousands of dollars and in some cases millions of dollars for NFTs. I really don't think people are this stupid again, and I really hope that they learned from their previous mistake. Now, don't get me wrong. I think that there's money to be made in any market, but understand the difference between a trade and an investment. And a JPEG, in my opinion, long term will never hold its value. Just my 2 cents. Okay? Okay. UNH. Roberto is asking for UNH. Let's go ahead and break that down. UNH is United Healthcare. It looked like there was an update, and we talked about this, right? UNH, which is United Healthcare, has seen a pretty consistent downturn from highs of $600 to lows of $247. It kind of found its support right around 300 and then began to uptick to highs of 320, 330. But then all of a sudden, based off of recent patterns, it began to downtrend. So it's all based off of the updates that we are hearing about what is happening in the health insurance space and the progress with the current investigation that is happening with United Healthcare. I made it very clear that when I decided to talk about United Healthcare, I know that morally speaking, some people cannot see themselves investing in this kind of company, and I respect that. I'm not here to convince you. I truly don't care if you do or do. You could short it for all I care, right? The reason I talked about it was that it's a big what if, but United Healthcare has been a very strong company for a very long period of time. Fundamentally, it was a printing machine, right? Based off of recent events with its internal investigation and just a bunch of things of where it could potentially be found for fraud, that could be a huge negative catalyst for this company. No question about it. But when it sold off 50% and it began to trade below $300 per share, I viewed it as okay, I'm going to put such a small dollar amount that I don't really care for. And if it doubles, great. And if it sells off to $100, then so be it. And that's still where I'm at. I have no intention of selling United Healthcare stock anytime soon. My average purchase price for this position is $293. And again, I don't know if it's going to go to 200 or to 100 if things get worse, but I've made that very clear. If things do continue to get worse in this investigation or in just the healthcare space, then yes, United Healthcare has every right to continue to sell off. But if this investigation is just actually, the United States fishing for something, and if they don't get anything, then again, we'll find a support, and then this company can begin to recover. As of right now, there is no indication of a recovery. If you are someone that's focused on making money right now, I would not focus on trading or investing in United Healthcare. Let me make that very clear, right? And I think that might be an odd thing to hear from someone that is invested. Like when I tell you that I barely have any money in United Healthcare, it's a few $1,000s. And it's not even under my account, it's under my daughter's account. The reason why is I thought it'd be cool for her to be invested in a stock that could potentially double, right? And see where it goes 18 years from now. So as of right now, it's still a bearish stock. It's still under investigation. And if in the horizon that you want to make money, if it's right now, then I would not focus on a stock that is consolidating or still selling off and under investigation. Very simple. Like that shouldn't be complicated. So everything in the bond markets, all the government drama, inflation, on up, how the F, is there anything up on the market? The media is pushing propaganda. What's going on, Jay? So we've talked about it before, especially in our LPP live trading sessions. I feel like when I make these videos, like more of these live streams for Sunday Stock Talk, I'm very short on time, and we always have a specific reason on why we're going live. Because I trade live with the LPP team, that's kind of where we have more of open-ended conversations, right? And that is where we've talked about why the market is so bullish. And I think it goes back to not so much of propaganda. I'm not a big conspiracy theorist myself, right? I don't like to feed into I don't like to feed into any of that. What I like to focus on is what makes the most sense, regardless if fundamentally it doesn't make sense, like why the market's reacting the way that it is. And the market's been bullish since late of 2024, right? We saw a quick downturn, and then when President Trump was viewed to be the president-elect, we began to see a nice uptick, and it's been a strong rally ever since. The only time that we saw the downturn was during the trade war, and then we entered a 90-day pause, which allowed the markets to recover. So it is my understanding that markets are trading at these levels and in this direction because they're hopefully, and in my opinion, blindly optimistic that by the markets being under the Trump administration, it's more favored for businesses. And therefore, by being more favored for businesses, it will allow these companies to excel. And therefore, they're favorable markets and conditions for these specific companies. Do I agree with it completely? No, of course not. But at the end of it, it makes sense, right? They're super focused on that Trump will begin to, not Trump, but eventually the Federal Reserve will come around and start cutting interest rates. And if that does happen, that can be a whole nother wave of a positive catalyst. I already believe markets are super overvalued. And I believe that markets recovered after no fundamental change at all. Over 90 days ago, we had no trade deal. 90 days later, we still have no trade deals. But now the markets don't care about the tariffs. So I've expressed my uncertainty, but it's the optimism that under a Trump administration, it will be favorable for businesses. And that is why there is such a positive outlook for the market. And until proven otherwise, I believe that if tariffs do come around and begin to reflect that our inflation rate is rising much quicker than originally was expected, that is what I believe can be a huge negative catalyst that can cause another downturn, just like we saw in 2022. I'm not here to say that we're going to see a 2008 crash. I think we have to have a much larger catalyst for that. All I'm saying is that is the only thing that I could possibly see in the horizon based off of recent inflation data, is that if tariffs are shown to be and proven to be inflationary, then at that point it will poke holes in this optimism under the Trump administration. But that is all. Like, there's no reason to overcomplicate it. There is a lot of hope, there's a lot of greed, but there's a lot of optimism. And you either go with the market or you can just wait and stay cash, right? I know it's a challenging pickle to be in, and it can be very frustrating, but remember, I think it's really important to remind yourself that, especially at these elevated levels, just do your part in being intentional with the trades and investments that you take. You shouldn't be afraid to go long or to go short. You just have to make sure that you take both sides into consideration. And I think that's the best way to move forward until things begin to change, either for the good or for the bad. Maybe the Federal Reserve will come around and start cutting rates. That could blast markets to new highs. But if inflation continues to rise and we begin to see a downturn, then that's the deals that we've been waiting for. So I'm excited to just learn and to pay attention to the market and see what presents itself. Okay? Oh yeah, and we're entering earnings season. I forgot about that. I think Tesla reports earnings this upcoming week, right? So why not talk about it? Should we? And you guys know, I'm a huge Elon fan, but I'm also not naive. Fundamentally, Tesla is not a good performing stock right now. 2 consecutive quarters that are down year over year. The sentiment for Tesla is still negative, and they're about to get rid of the $7,500 EV tax credit at the end of September. So I don't see how guidance can look any better for Tesla when they still don't have the Optimus robot and their autonomy vehicles are still being tested and about 3 years behind Google's Waymo. But nonetheless, we'll see how markets react this week, right? We do have earnings that are set to be reported. I'll leave it up to you guys. If you guys want me to go live, just make sure you drop a thumbs up and we can live stream Tesla as it reports earnings. But it's set to be on the 23rd, which is, I believe, Wednesday of this week. So Wednesday of this week, Tesla will report earnings, and based off of expectation and what it actually reports, we'll see if it gaps up or gaps down. And if we look at the 4-hour time frame to kind of have an understanding of where it currently sits versus where it's been at and where it's gone to for its support and resistance, it's kind of in the middle. I would say the risk to reward is about the same. I believe that Tesla, based off of how it's actually, doing business right now, belongs at a $200, sub $200 price per share. But there's a lot of hope, there's a lot of hype that this autonomy will pay off, even though it's already been over 5 to 10 years since he's been talking about it. So again, it's all part of it. I'm excited to see what presents itself, but I also would not. That's the thing. Do I think Tesla is a good deal at $335 per share? Heck no. Like, why pretend? It is not a good deal. It is not a fair market value of the stock. It is not a good performing stock. But if you're okay with that, if you think that it's going to pump to new highs, it doesn't hurt me that you go long, right? I don't have an active short on it. And even if I did, we don't impact one another. My few shares against your few shares, we're a drop in the water in a vast ocean, right? This is one of the most heavily traded stocks daily in the stock market. I do believe that a lot of people will be paying attention to it based off of what it reports and what is expected. And depending on how it reports, I think will dictate what the sentiment will be moving forward for a lot of these tech companies. So I'm excited to follow up. But yeah, definitely, in my opinion, a top watch for this week. And yes, Tesla is going to be one of them. So yeah, let's go ahead and move on to the next one. We got Spencer with RKLB. RKLB. Rocket Lab. All right. Ugh. Okay, so right off the bat, I don't think it's a good deal. I think that's pretty safe to say. But also, it's incredibly bullish where just would it make sense to short it. Overall direction and sentiment has been incredibly bullish. Higher highs, higher lows in a very short period of time. It's made new highs. It's doubled in price. To me, that's a huge red flag. For those that are thinking of buying, it's just something to take into consideration. I mean, who's to say that the hype can't continue, right? We've seen it all this year, where if a company has a good story and good price momentum, it could continue to push to new highs, and its valuation fundamentally just does not matter in the short term. We've seen it. We're seeing it with crypto. We're seeing it with AI. We're seeing it with semiconductors. Why is this any different, right? So remember, there's a difference between a trade and an investment. A trade is that you know that the rally is short-lived. You're doing your part in getting in, getting out, making your money, and bouncing. An investment is that you see long-term growth potential at the current value you are investing in. And in my opinion, it just doesn't make sense for RKB. Right off the bat, looking at the day chart, seeing the swings that this thing has, the retracements of 50%, and now this huge upswing. Just because it's overbought doesn't mean that it needs to be shorted. It's just a company that I would be very cautious with investing at these elevated levels. I mean, I can plug it into my Investing Pro and see what it says. It says it has 47% of downside. Its average fair market value based off of 12 different analysts is 2683. And this thing is trading at a negative PE ratio of 119 times its earnings, meaning that this company loses $206 million every single year, yet it has a market cap of $24 billion. Now, things and companies like this are what scream bubble to me. And it's always companies like this. Like, I know that if you're experienced, I don't need to explain it to you. But for those that are beginners, people that jumped into this, they think that these rallies are going to last forever. Again, at the end of the day, I'm not here to tell them that they should sell. I'm just here to make them aware of the risk if they don't and there's a pullback. And anytime that I try to be cautious for beginner traders, people get offended. You would think, right, especially in this market full of greed, this is the part that is so confusing to me, that markets are currently trading at all-time highs. NFTs just hit a $6 billion market cap, right? You would think that a person making a video for beginners highlighting the risk of buying at these elevated levels would be appreciated and will be welcomed. But no, they don't like that I don't feed into their narrative that these things have to continue to push. What do you like? You would think that if I were to make videos about you need to buy this right now, $51, no, this thing's going to 100. To think that that concept nowadays would perform better than actually just expressing the risk behind investing in overvalued companies. Isn't that kind of crazy? That this is the world that we live in today. But again, I'm not here to tell you that you need to sell, because if you bought in at $19 and you're priced well, who's to say that this thing can't continue to skyrocket, right? All I'm here to say is that no, I don't think it's a good deal when it's a company that's trading at a negative P/E ratio of 120, but it doesn't mean that it can't go higher. Remember, if a company has good momentum, just like we've seen with GameStop, who's to say that bullshit stocks can't continue to skyrocket? They do it all the time. It's just making sure that you get out before everyone else does. That's really the question you should be asking yourself, right? So I'm not going to be the one that reaps the benefit from locking in profits, but I'm also not going to be the one left holding the bag if the stock falls apart. It's you. So you decide the positions that you want to keep yourself open to. I think is the best way to approach this market. You'll never be perfect. You'll always miss out on some potential profit. But remember, making some money is better than giving it all back, at least in my opinion. You let me know what you think. Let's go ahead and break down, what do we say? Two more stocks that you guys want me to break down. Share it in that live chat, drop a thumbs up, and let's do it. Thank you, Ricky. Of course, I appreciate you tuning on in. SoFi. I was supposed to break that one down for you. Sorry, brother. SoFi had, dude, man, this one's been pissing me off because it is a very strong company. I've tried shorting it, and it was just like, oh man, this thing is so overbought, and this is where I just have to respect. Like, look at this thing. Like, it irritates me how overbought it is. But you're right. Markets can stay irrational longer than I can stay solvent, right? Who's to say that this thing has to pull back right now? Why would I open up a short if we don't have confirmation of a sell-off? This thing is still bullish, to keep it simple. If we look at this on the 4-hour time frame, everything is pointing up. Do I think it's a good deal? No, I don't think anyone would say that SoFi at this current value is a good deal. But it's trending and its price action is favorable for the bulls. So let it run as much and as long as you need it to. But we all know that just as it's done in the past before, when it breaks the support and there's a break of pattern, these are always the stocks that see the largest drops. Not by surprise, but because they earned it, right? They never belonged up here, so then when they correct the hardest. Just as quick as they pump, it's not like it's never done it before. they dump. Let's look at the price action, right? From overall lows to overall highs, an insane return, 138%. From overall highs to overall lows, losing 50% of their value. So again, if we were to retrace from current levels or current highs to previous lows, not the lowest point, but just previous lows that we hit earlier this year during the trade war, that's a 60% drop. That's all I'm here to make you aware. I'm not here to say that this thing can't push up another 20%. Of course it can. Anything can happen. Bitcoin is at $120,000 per coin. Anything can happen. NFTs are selling for, actually I don't know if they're still selling for that much, but it hit a $6 billion market cap. Who's to say that this thing can't push up to 25 to 30? I'm not going to pretend to say that. That'd be naive. In a market full of greed, anything can happen. But at what risk? Do you want to go from $20 to 25 to possibly go from $20 down to 10? That is the question I've always asked like Bitcoin buyers is, okay, if people were trying to encourage others to buy at $100,000 per coin. That sounds like a great idea, right? Now, okay, cool. You went up to 120. You made 20%. Don't get me wrong. That's an insane return. But at what risk? We all know that Bitcoin crashes 50 to 70%. So for 20% potential profit, you're willing to risk 50 to 70% of potential loss? Like, make that make sense. Risk to reward ratios just wouldn't make sense at those elevated levels. But it's taking both sides into consideration. And again, people hate when I speak like this because it pokes holes in their ideology that these stocks are going to continue to rocket forever. And yes, in the short term, fundamentals don't matter, but they always do long term. Just make sure you're ready. Okay? Let's go ahead and do one more. I like that. We had two of you at the same time say AMD. Let's break it down. AMD, which is, in my opinion, the least or the second favorite semiconductor, right? Chip manufacturer. AMD, surprisingly, has had a really strong run, and this is after all the downturn that this thing has been used and abused, unfortunately, by Wall Street. At one point, it was down 65% to lows of $76. Do you guys remember when I made that video when it was trading at sub $100 per share? And I was like, just Wall Street does not like it. It looks like it began to change things around. It's now testing a previous resistance range. We do not have confirmation of a reversal just yet. It's still an incredibly bullish stock with higher highs and higher lows. And again, semiconductors, that space this year for 2025 is an incredible space to be invested in. I just made a video earlier today talking about an ETF that just focuses on semiconductors. So would I bet against semiconductors right now? Not with the current momentum that there is. So if there's a break of pattern, I do believe that, if there's a negative catalyst that begins to shift markets into a downturn, then yes, semiconductors such as AMD and NVIDIA might see a very large and substantial pullback, maybe much larger than other sectors, but it's because they also have seen such a large return. Like, look at this. From lows of April to highs, that's 105% return in 70 days, in 66 days. It's insane, right? But again, as long as direction is favorable and as long as there's no break of pattern, this thing is bullish. Respect it, right? It's above the moving average, higher highs, higher lows. Amazing. As soon as you begin to see that it's trading sideways or begins to break its pattern and begins to show signs of weakness and possible selling pressure, I would run. And by run, I would say that you start running because I'm going to start shorting. But there is no confirmation of that. Would I short this right now? No. Would I go long on this as a long-term investment? No. But if I wanted to trade something and direction was favorable for AMD, I can see why someone would want to trade this, especially with all the momentum that's going on with semiconductors. So I love talking about things like this because I think not only do we talk about individual stocks, but we also shed light on what sectors in this current market are thriving and respecting that and knowing that we can trade them, but then also understanding that they can quickly turn against us if sentiment begins to change. So moments like right now are reminding me a lot of what it felt like in late 2021. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look at any chart of SPY or QQQ or any of your favorite tech companies at late 2021 and what happened all of 2022. I think that can shed light on why you wouldn't want to be super, super aggressive, or why you wouldn't want to be over leveraged at overbought levels. You shouldn't ever be scared to be invested, but you shouldn't be over leveraged at overbought levels, because then at that point, you're just putting yourself in a position to get margin called, right? I want to see you guys do well because you earned it, not because you feel like you deserve it. You deserve nothing in this space. This market is earned. And again, just please make sure that you're not just thinking about how much money you can make, but you're always taking worst case scenario into consideration. Because making some money is better than giving it all back, at least in my experience. So again, I wish you guys nothing but the best. Excited to see what this week has to offer. Remember, Wednesday, Tesla is set to report earnings, probably after the market closes. You guys let me know down in the comment section if you guys would like me to host that live session, and we'll make sure that we do it. I hope to see you for tomorrow's live trading session with my LPP team. Remember, it's a one-time payment, lifetime access. You'll get to watch me trade live every single day, and yes, it's designed for beginners. It's the second link in the description down below, and we'll see you then. Like always, let's make sure that we end the year on a green note. Take care, team.